to do it when I get excited when we actually start.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Sure. Hi, Kumiko. Welcome. Hi, Megumi. Hey, Renee. Hi, Rob. Charles. Hi, Savitri. Yes, today is Gandhi Jayanti. That's part of why we chose today for the book launch. It's also the United Nations Day of Nonviolence, which was timed to coincide with Gandhi's birthday. And also coming up later in the week is Marshall Rosenberg's birthday. And then later in the month is me. So lots of Librans in the NVC community. Actually wonder if it's 1 out of 12 NVC practitioners is a Libra, or if it's heavily Librans. We're so much interested in peace. Hey, Melanie, welcome. We'll get started in about 4 minutes. For those of you who are just arriving. Glad to see you all. Hi, Fumiko. Hi, Tanya, welcome. Hey, Gary.
Okay.
Hey, John. Glad to see you.
Yeah.
Hey, Shila's here too. Wow, and Melanie. Glad to see you.
Nice to see you all.
I did put the live transcript on, which means that you can have closed captioning if that's helpful for you. Sometimes I get really excited and start speaking more quickly than some people can track, including my wife. I just get really excited and then she'll say, "What?" And I'll say, "Oh yeah, I'm excited, aren't I?" Hi, Niles. Irina, wow, early in the morning for you.
Yeah, we have several people. It's early in the morning.
I'm gonna make Rena a co-host since she's here in that role, and Tanya too, even though you may come and go as you please, just in case disaster unfolds here. I'll have lots of backup.
Yeah, every once in a while our power will go out when we're in a training, and it usually comes back in very quickly. At this point, probably within 2 minutes, we've got a backup. But just in case, let you know that. You live in a pretty rural area.
Yeah, if we haven't met you before, Jory and I live in Maui on the beautiful island of Hawaii. And we've been here for about 11 years now. And we are literally in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of nowhere. Hawaii is among the most remote places on the planet. We're 2,500 miles from the mainland of the United States and even farther from the mainland of other continents. And we're about 30 seconds away from the official start. I wish I had some fireworks or something, but no fireworks. Just
Here, I can do the da, 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 da.
My heart's going boom, 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 boy. I'm really excited though.
We can all do our celebration icon.
Yeah, there you go. We can all do waving hands like that too. Yeah, so we're up to 69 folks. So glad that you're here. More people arriving. People will be coming and going throughout the whole event. I don't expect anybody to be here for the whole event. Okay, so there it is, top of the hour here, bottom of the hour in India. It's time to start. Yay. So welcome.
Yay. Congratulations. Hearty congratulations.
So thanks for being here.
Yay!
Yay!
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so I'm I'm really glad you're here to celebrate the launch of my new book, Pathways to Nonviolent Communication. And it's really exciting for me. And I'm hoping that this event and the book just contribute to Marshall's dream of a world where everybody's needs matter, where everybody's needs can be met reliably and abundantly. And I'm here as your first host, and Jory's here as my support for this first call. Each of the presentations that we're going to be doing, all of us trainers, there's 28 of us who have volunteered to host calls, host hours. And each of the skills that we'll be talking about comes from something called the Pathways to Liberation Matrix of Self-Assessment. And Jory and Jack Lehman, another certified trainer, and Jake Gottwalls and I created this set of 28 skills to support our local community and ourselves in Albuquerque in integrating nonviolent communication more fully. And since then, it has somehow taken root in the NVC community, which is surprising and very hopeful to me. It's really helped me a lot, these 28 skills. And so I'm glad you're here to get a taste of at least as many of them as you can stay awake for. Lots of folks have been asking if we're going to record the calls. We're intending to record them. And you'll also notice that it says it's being live streamed on YouTube, but that is a private live stream. It's like a backup recording system that we're hoping will help us to back up the call in case something goes on. In a couple of minutes, I'll be sharing my experience of the first skill that we're going to be talking about, which is supporting holistic systems. And but first, I just want to say a little bit about why we're doing the call. Jory and I and many of the folks that will be hosting calls are certified trainers with the Center for Nonviolent Communication, CNVC for short. Marshall started CNVC with some colleagues more than 35 years ago. And it was to help him fulfill his mission. He just got so busy that he needed help. So Marshall's great at asking for help, and he started creating teams. And now we have a network of certified trainers all around the world. I think there's somewhere around 500 or 600 or 700 of us, not exactly even sure right now. But because of the effects of the pandemic, CNVC lost a really important source of their operating stream, their income, because they used to offer something called international intensive trainings. These are trainings that Marshall Rosenberg designed, and they're 9 days long and they're in person, and that's just not happening right now. And so this really affected the Center for Nonviolent Communication. And so we decided to step up and try to do some fundraising for them. So I wrote this book and partnered with Puddle Dancer Press, who published the book. And both Meiji and I are donating any profits that come from the book directly to the Center for Nonviolent Communication to support their mission. And so I will put into the chat the link to buy the book. It's a request that you buy as many of these copies of the book as you can afford and give them away to friends. And it's a great gift that you can give. So I enjoy the idea of you buying copies. I don't know how many we've sold so far. Last time I checked, we'd already sold 5,000, but that was more than a week ago. So we're doing quite well. In fact, I noticed today on Amazon.com that we were the #1 book in the genre of general medical psychology books, which is really exciting. So that's everything that I wanted to say before we get going. I'm going to share my screen with you now. Each of these sessions, by the way, will just be an hour long. So we're hoping that we will get a chance to do some practices along the way in small groups. And we will get through as much of the material as we can in our hour. Hopefully we'll leave you hungry for more. So today, my section is called Supporting Holistic Systems. The matrix that I mentioned earlier is a system of these 28 NVC skills. And they go from the most basic NVC skill, which we called presence. And then there's a list of 27 more skills that ends with supporting holistic systems. So this is the most complex of all the NVC skills. So why not start with the end in mind, as Stephen Covey used to say. And what I learned from Marshall about social change and supporting holistic systems was that there's a certain kind of spirituality that Marshall was offering us. And he really recommended that before we engage in social change, that we clarify that spirituality in us. And so to do that, today we're going to be talking about his 4 dimensions of social change for a few minutes. I'll just read this quote for folks that are on the phone. Marshall speaking here. I think it will help me to show you the different ways in which we've been applying nonviolent communication to support our social change efforts and political activism by getting us all clear about 4 dimensions, 4 interacting issues, which for me are very important to have in my consciousness. They help me decide how I want to contribute to social change. The first dimension, Marshall called the story. And it has to do with this very old idea in history about what's the good life, and answers the questions, how shall we human beings live, and what is our nature? And I like the way Marshall began his first book, which goes directly to the idea about nature. He says, it's our nature to enjoy giving and receiving compassionately. And so then the life that we will live, if that's our nature, is a life of compassionate giving and receiving. And the goodness of life, we experience it directly when we're in the flow of that giving and receiving. This is in contrast to the world culture that we live in, which some folks, including Marshall, call the domination system. And so we're doing the best we can with nonviolent communication to create a different kind of a paradigm based on partnership. So that to me is the good life. And having this event is a manifestation of that kind of a partnership. I got so much help with so much ease in putting together this event. So I'm loving the way my story is unfolding right now. The second dimension that Marshall mentioned is gangs. So for those of you who know Marshall, or maybe have watched his videos, or got to do a training with him, Marshall loved to play with words. And to me, it looked like he was always trying to find a way to stop me a little bit and let me think about what's really going on. And rather than get kind of lulled into sleep that the teacher's in the front of the room trying to speak, he would use these kind of provocative phrases that would really grab my attention and help me to go a little bit deeper into whatever he was teaching. And so he basically talked about gangs, which is a word that's often used to talk about the bad guys. But then he talked about all the gangs that he was a part of. And basically he defined a gang as a group of people that get together and have a common aim. So CNBC is an example of a gang. The group of certified trainers is an example of a gang. Your neighborhood association, if you have one, is an example of a gang. Your group of colleagues that you hang out with might be a gang. Your poker club, if you play cards or something like that, might be a gang. So the gangs is not something that's bad or wrong. It's just a group of people that get together with a common aim. And so it's important that we know about gangs, because it's the members of gangs that are going to be making the decisions which will support us in our social change efforts. And so in order to become a member of a gang member needs education. So, the typical way I was educated in the system that I grew up in was to be obedient to authority, to do what I was told. And if I didn't, then I would get punished. And if I did, then I got rewarded. So that's the education system that I grew up in. And I think it really affected me and still affects me. I still live from that kind of consciousness a lot of the time, where I think about who's good and who's bad and who's right and who's wrong. That's the kind of education that I got until I met Marshall and nonviolent communication. And then I started getting a new education. And that's what this whole book launch is all about, is helping us to gain new ideas about how to be educated. And so the fourth and final one of these dimensions, Marshall called self-development. And so the idea here is to actually, he would always begin his international intensive trainings with a session called something like creating a life-serving system within oneself. Because Marshall recognized that because of the way we had been educated, we had some unlearning to do, and we needed to relearn how to really engage with human beings in a life-serving way. And he had lots of ideas about how to do that. His book, Nonviolent Communication, The Language of Life, basically is the how-to guide for doing that kind of inner work that's required to then be preparing ourselves for the relational work that we have with our partners, maybe they're romantic partners, maybe they're family members, business partners, and so forth. But first it starts with working on ourselves and getting clear on starting to undo the domination system within us, and then building this life-serving system, and then extending it out relationally to our friends, and then being able to increase that even further with by doing our social change efforts, by joining with other people with a common aim to make life more wonderful. So we're going to do some practice in just a minute. And before we do the practice, I'm going to turn the screen off here. And I wonder if, let's see here, if there's somebody that I could call on. Eric, would you be willing to be my partner so I can demonstrate the game that I'm going to invite people to play today? Okay, so you and I will be talking together, so you can unmute yourself.
Unmuted.
Okay, great. So I'm going to just guide you in a few questions and ask, and then I'm going to just be present for you. And the purpose of this is to learn to become as smart as bees and dogs. So that's another one of Marshall's quotes that he uses in his book about social change. So that's what this practice is called, is learning to be as smart as bees and dogs. And in the practice, when you do it in your own small groups, there'll be groups of 3, and there will be 3 different roles in the practice. So Eric's going to play the role of explorer. So he's going to be exploring something about his consciousness. I'm going to be his guide, and all the rest of you are his witness. And so when you get into your small groups, the first thing that you'll do is to choose who will play each role. And so now I begin by saying, Eric, think of something that you would like to have that you don't have yet. And choose a tangible object, something that you can actually hold in your hands, or if you had a box big enough, it would fit into a box. So what would you like to have that you don't have?
I would love to have a virtual reality headset.
A virtual reality headset. Okay, great. And so now we'll do a little exploration about what's going on in you when you want to have that. And so my job is just going to be to ask you just a couple of questions and then to be present for you as you answer. Okay. So tell me a little bit more about that virtual reality headset. Why would that be fun for you?
Oh, I'm just imagining I could use it to play games and be transported to different worlds, and maybe use it for exercise, like different workout routines, and maybe even use it like a virtual monitor instead of having a computer monitor. I'd have a big giant screen monitor that I just wear on my head instead of looking at this tiny screen.
Yeah.
And then I could have Jim and Joy full size in front of me all the time.
Oh, wow. Sounds like a nightmare. But it sounds like for you, it would be a lot of fun, and that it would really have a lot of utility for it. That this one particular object could have lots of uses. It could actually help you in your work. It could help you in your fun, and could also even help you with cultivating your own vitality, getting exercise. Did I get it?
I keep telling my wife that. Yeah, absolutely. That's exact. Yes, that's it. Yeah. Fun, vitality, productivity, connection even. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Yeah, so just stop and notice how you feel right now, connecting to that desire.
I'm feeling like this warmth that's radiating up from my heart, up my shoulders, almost like upwards.
Yeah, so there's a quality of warmth and what kind of emotions are you noticing?
Oh, I'm amusement and just excitement. I'm tapping my feet against the ground right now. I'm just thinking about how much fun it would be
Yeah,
to just swing my arms in time to the music while dancing through the universe or something. Or yeah, I'm just yeah,
yeah. So it sounds like you're anticipating a lot of fun.
I am. I really am.
Yeah. So now, after this connecting with yourself and noticing your feelings and needs, you're not really any closer to having this virtual reality headset right now. And how do you feel noticing that even though maybe you got some empathy, you still don't have your virtual reality headset? How do you feel?
Oh, I still feel great. I mean, I came down a smidge, but I'm still thinking about how fun it would be. I'm
Yeah,
still thinking about, yeah, I'm just imagining how fun it would be.
yeah, yeah. So there's still a sense of anticipation and fun in you. Anything else? You don't have this thing yet. Is there anything else that's alive in you when you notice you don't have it?
I should have this. That's what I'm thinking. I should have this
Yeah.
immediately.
So
I want this. I really want to have this. I really want to have some fun. That's really what I'm thinking. I
you really want to
really
have
want to
some
have,
fun. Yeah. And you think this
yeah.
device is going to do it and you don't have it right now. Yeah.
I'm thinking, I think it's going to be so much fun. I don't have it, and I think it's just going to be so much fun. Yes,
Right.
yes.
Okay. So then just imagine that we just finished there, but we're not. We're gonna just invite you to just make a note of the feelings. You don't have to write it down for time right now, but in your breakout rooms, you might want to just take 30 seconds and write down the feeling that you're having. And then as you connect right now, Eric, again to the feeling that is alive in you right in this moment, what's important to you about getting this? Maybe you could say, now, having had this little bit of empathy, is there any more clarity about the needs that are alive in you?
There's the
Uh,
question in the chat, Jim.
Yeah, I'm not going to take questions right now. Thank you, Jory. Go ahead,
I,
Eric.
I guess I'm surprised at how joyful I feel just
Yeah,
anticipating the fun that I'm going to have. Like it's almost as if I'm just really just enjoying the emotion of the anticipation and the excitement and the potential excitement of playing with it or having fun.
yeah,
That's what's really, it's almost surprising how alive it is, the lightness that I feel.
yeah, yeah. And so really feeling a lot of lightness and savoring fun right now. Yeah. So just take a moment and just let yourself be present to these feelings and needs in your heart. And then what's one step, Eric, that you could take to move closer to getting this virtual reality headset?
I could log off this call right now and I could just go buy it probably. That would be the thing I could do. I could actually just commit to making, I could just log off and buy it right now.
Yeah.
Or yeah, that'd probably be it.
Yeah. So in other words, you could actually, right now, you could, since I don't want you to leave the call, I want you to stay, but you could, I want to acknowledge your freedom there, but you could make a commitment or an agreement with yourself that at the next convenient moment, you could log on to some other place where you can buy these things and order it. So your first step would be to actually log on and maybe do a little scrolling and shopping and pick the one that works for you.
Right. Or schedule a discussion with my wife to get authorization
Ah,
for the purchase.
okay, so
That
now
would be
we're
another
actually
thing.
getting clear on a real necessary first step, and that's to gain some connection and clarity with your sweetheart.
Right, right. Some collaboration. There's a word for it. I can't remember, but
Yeah, collaboration, that works for me. Collaboration, cooperation, really enjoying your sense of partnership with your wife. And so it's important.
partnership. There it is. Yes,
Yeah.
partnership. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so when do you imagine you might be able to have that conversation?
Oh, maybe in a few hours from now. I could even text her to say, "Hey, could we talk about this?" I could even do that.
Yeah, cool. So now, how do you feel now that you have a next step?
No, I feel pretty good. It's like I'm almost feeling hopeful. Like maybe this is going to happen. Man, now that I've planned to talk to my sweetheart about buying this thing.
Cool, great. Well, thanks for demoing with me. And Jory, hopefully you've got folks in groups of 3 now. And so we're going to try something new. Those seemed like kind of complicated instructions. Some of you might have been taking notes, but Eric and I learned yesterday how to hopefully share my screen with the instructions while you're in your breakout rooms. So today you are our guinea pigs in trying this. So Jory, if you would set the breakout rooms for 10, I'll make it for 21 minutes. So you may not have time to do all 3 roles. You may only have time to do 1 round, but do as much as you can. Everybody will get a chance to at least play one of the roles. If you can get through all 3 roles in 20 minutes, that'd be great. So that would be about 6 minutes or 7 minutes for each person doing the breakout. And so go ahead and open the rooms. Jory will answer more questions and stuff when you guys get back. And so let's go ahead and get going so we have as much time as possible to practice.
Okay, when I set the time, I lost my room. So give me 1 second here and I'll send you all off in actually about 20 seconds.
Jim, could you repeat the 3 issues?
Yes, and this is what you'll see in your breakout room if things work the way they're supposed to.
Okay. Well, hopefully it's set for the right time. If not, we'll extend it. I don't know how to do it right now with this many people, so we'll just go from there. Okay, there you go. You ready to go?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, it's definitely the wrong amount of time.
Okay.
Yeah, I went to change it and the whole thing stopped and I had to recreate.
Okay, don't talk to me for just a second. I've got to figure out how to now do this thing in the breakout rooms. Got to share my screen. I do this. Do this. Share to breakout rooms. And I think it worked.
It worked. It was sharing to the room.
Good. Thanks, Eric.
I thought you were going to say like a car. I was going to say Tesla, but then you said it has to fit into a box.
I guess it could be a big enough box.
Yes, that's true. I didn't think about that. Yes, I didn't. My imagination was not at the point where it's like.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
You didn't think outside the box.
That's funny. I'm gonna have to read this book now by Marshall.
I see Juliana is stuck in a room by herself, Jory, so I'm going to move her to 5.
Hi, Jory. I'm wondering if there's someone that can go in the room with Christine that I just came from. I'm having technical issues and can't right now.
Christine, I see one Christine with 3 people. Let's see if I can find another one.
It has my name.
37, room 37. You want me to move her?
Sure.
Yeah, that would be good. And then I'm just gonna leave the call until I get this figured out. I will be back. So thank you.
Okay.
Okay, great.
And Jory, can you go to room 4 and see what
Okay.
Beth wants?
Okay, 4. If she's going to ask me what they're doing, I won't know because I was
Should be on the
busy
screen
doing.
for them.
You want me to go in?
Okay.
Yeah,
No,
go ahead, Eric.
Go ahead. Okay, you go ahead, Eric.
Room
Sure.
4.
4, you said, right?
Yeah, 4.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Well, Ellen is here now. We could assign her. Nope. Do you remember which room he went into, Jim?
4.
Okay, I'm going to put this new person into 4.
I'm back. Yeah, you could put them in 4. That would be, give them a third person.
Right. I don't know what happened. It didn't
Looks
go.
like she's already there. Looks like you moved her.
Oh, there she kind of, okay, she just showed up.
Oh, Hannah and Jiva are there. Okay.
Yes.
Valerie needs to go somewhere.
Okay, who's going to do it? Shall I or
I'll put her in
someone else?
9.
Okay, great. It's great to have your support, Eric. You're definitely a higher class tech support than I am.
Oh, you're sweet. You're a higher class NBC person than I am then. If we're going to be, if we're going to go talk about domain expertise.
Oh,
Oh, wow. Wendy Jason's here too. How wonderful.
oh, yeah, I saw that.
Okay, I sent them a message that we would close the rooms at about at 43 for us.
43
At
It's
3:40
stuck.
at 3:43 p.m.
PM. Put PM because if they're looking up there,
No,
that'd
no,
be a
no. I didn't.
screen.
I'm just telling you. That's not what I told them. I told them 15 minutes.
Yeah, right. Room 29 has only 2, just in case someone
And
comes
I'm
in.
not stopping the recording because I don't want to forget to turn it back on again. So
Yeah.
even these little chats are a chance to live the process. It's so strange. Yesterday, while we were hanging out, Eric, and playing with the YouTube Live thing, I had both the YouTube Live and the Zoom screen on at the same time. And it was like, oh, I was a little bit time shifted here. It was very, very interesting effect.
It is. It's so interesting. And then if you're trying to monitor, if you ever do like a live event where you monitor the chat, the stream is it's like several seconds in the past. So you'll see a chat and you have to turn off the audio, otherwise you go crazy listening to your audio from 30 seconds previous. And then you have to answer the questions that were sent to you 30 seconds ago or a minute ago, if you want to do it that way.
Uh-huh.
It is a little bit mind-bending for me.
Yeah. So welcome to the new arrivals here.
Oh, should I assign them?
May as well. Why don't you spread them out?
Okay, will do.
Where folks are doing a practice right now. Room 13 only has 2.
37 has none.
37, no, we don't want to put them in a,
Got it. Yeah.
yeah. 40 has only 2.
Great.
And now let's see, it's 1, 2, I'll do 40 with her. 40, good. One more, let's see. Oh, that group that you're, no, that's. There's one left. I'll go ahead and put her in room 2.
You have space for a question, Jim?
Sure. Just keeping in mind that we're recording.
Yeah. Is there a reason you chose a tangible object? I can guess, but I was just curious.
Yeah, to save time. Basically, it was to save time and to make sure that the level of intensity would be low. And
Okay.
and I'd never done this practice, so I can't wait to find out what people say about it. But the idea of the practice is to notice the difference between stopping with empathy. That was the last step of the first round. And then when we went back into it, we didn't stop until we got a next step.
Okay. We didn't stop until we got our next step.
Right. I stayed.
The query, which was the request of self in this case.
Exactly. The next step.
Got it.
The request. And so this is hopefully giving people a direct experience of the difference between what Marshall called translative spirituality and transformative spirituality, which I'll explain at the very end.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was hoping that would be useful for the recording, actually. So good.
Yeah, a little debrief here. Did you notice a difference between when we stopped at, just with empathy, and then when you said you'd notice a difference, but I wonder if you recall anything else that you want to say.
I really did feel greater joy. I really did feel excitement. I really did feel hope. Those are all real things.
Yeah.
That I felt. There's no question. I wasn't making it up.
Yeah, when I did it with Jory earlier today as a rehearsal, when we just stopped with empathy, she has kind of moved into acceptance, about that she didn't have this particular object, and it was like, okay, well, yeah, it's okay. I can like live without it, And then when we went back into it again and went beyond empathy to a next step, what was that like for you, Jory, when we actually went to that next step?
It was a relief, really, of being able to just sit with what is. And there was a sense of acceptance.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Relief and acceptance. Yeah.
Yeah, and there was it opened things up so that as I looked at it, even what I wanted became less significant anymore. You know, it was like I was able to see the bigger picture
Mhm.
and see that there were downsides to what I was thinking at that moment. Excuse me, I might have wanted.
Hmm.
How many minutes, Jim?
10 more. And
Okay, then I will assign Young.
yeah.
to-
Hey,
I'm
Yen.
sorry. You're saying 10 more minutes until, because I'm showing 25 minutes on the breakout rooms. I didn't
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah, Jory,
Yeah,
Jory put
let's
the timer
broadcast
wrong.
them. Yeah,
That's why I sent
um,
them, that's why I sent them a link. I mean,
Yeah.
Got it.
and there's. Any other twos? Down 23. Mhm. So Sterling doesn't show up here anywhere. That's interesting. Right there.
Oh, he's in a room. He's assigned to a room that he didn't join.
I see. Okay, I didn't see that. I see. I put Hannah and Jiva together with 300 people. That's a big room. See, Sterling.
Boy, an hour sure goes by fast. I can see why I have a 2-hour practice group.
Oh yeah.
Even 2
definitely.
hours goes by fast. Can you imagine being a public school teacher where every day you got 45 minutes and then you go on to the next thing? And oh boy. Whew.
School teachers are hardcore, man.
No kidding. I
True.
have so much admiration.
If it were me, they would get paid $150,000 a year, and I'd buy them a house walking distance from the school and a really awesome electric car.
Oh, beautiful. We need to get you to be Andrew Yang's vice president. And it'd be do you pronounce your last name Wong or Wang?
If we did, oh, yeah, that'd be good. Huang is the way I do it, but I'm not picky on the pronunciation. I grew up in Minnesota where it was fine. I adapted to everything.
I bet.
Uh-huh.
I bet. Hi, I see. Welcome to the call. We folks are in small groups for about 5 more minutes. Then we'll come back for the next section together in the large group.
There is a group of 2. If either of you want to join that, you'd have 5 minutes to hang out there.
Or you can stay with us. Hi, David.
I'd rather stay here and just get settled. I've been
Okay.
having computer issues for a few days and have a loaner, so I'm just,
Aha.
yeah.
Yeah, you look a little troubled.
I look a little different too. I'm noticing, like, okay, where's even the camera to look at? Yeah, there we go.
Jim, I need to know how you managed to share screens in breakout rooms. I'm like totally impressed.
Yeah, I will teach you. Isn't that great?
At a different time. I wanted to be here to support you, but we're also doing our weekly practice group for embassy mediation right now. So I may sort of just be in the background here and then try to do both.
Okay,
So I
wonderful.
appreciate you and just wanted to say hi and congratulations. And I'm so excited for you and all this is great.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, Eric and I
Right.
figured out how to do this breakout room thing yesterday, and I'm so excited to be
Very
able to
cool.
share.
It's very cool. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go. I'll be here, but I'm gonna go on mute.
Yeah,
You're welcome. And I see that Rita and Joanne and Shuma and Kate have joined.
yeah. Welcome to all of
And,
you. Glad you're here.
Paul, Lakshmi, yeah.
Folks are in a small group for just about 3 more minutes or so, 4 more minutes. And then we'll come back and debrief what they did in the small groups.
Lots of people are coming back right now or coming in.
I think these might be all new people coming in.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Wonder if they, yeah, lots of people. Like it's 2, 4, 6,
They were up to
8,
10,
9.
10 in the 10 arriving. Glad you guys are all here. Folks are just finishing up stuff going on in the breakout room. And at about 2 more minutes, I'll push the command for the breakout rooms to close.
Oops. Mute. Do you hear the hammering, Jim? Do you need me to say something to him?
No, I can hear it, but not right. It doesn't matter to me right now.
Okay, great.
I can hear it down here
I'll mute.
too.
I'll
It's-
mute because I'm closer to it.
It's definitely not an NPR studio. It's real life.
And can you close the rooms or are you going to tell me to do it?
I will do it. I'm going to just tell them.
Okay, so you'll do that.
Jim,
Hang on just a second, please. Okay. Broadcast and close the room. Yes. Somebody said something?
yes, I'm Rita here from Malaysia.
Hi, Rita.
Nice to meet you. I have a question. Is how do we make spiritual connection?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think different people discover different ways. And I know one of the things that has helped me the most will be the topic of the next hour, which is Jory's hour. And it's tuning into the gratitude channel is a way of really that has really helped me to touch in to that kind of spiritual connection that I think you're talking about. And so hopefully by the end of the next hour, you might get some clarity. Other people, I think, work with it with prayer or meditation or anything that can support us in inspiration, awe, wonder, hope. We sometimes talk about emotions that arise when our needs are met, and so becoming alert to the presence of those emotions. Those are every single one of those emotions for me is a spiritual experience. Every time I touch gratitude or awe or inner peace, that's a spiritual experience for me. So there's about 20 seconds left. Anything you want to say in response to me, Rita?
Yeah, I got your answer. I understand. So whatever that comes like gratitude.
The only.
Oops. Yep.
Okay, thank you all.
Okay, here comes everybody back. All right, sorry about the abrupt transition back here. That's just the way Zoom works. Yeah, so I'm very curious to hear from at least one or two people. So if you know how to raise your hand in Zoom, raise your digital hand. And I'd love to hear what your experience was of the exercise and your small group. Go ahead, Purva. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yes. Hello, Jim, and everyone. So it was actually, yeah, it was beautiful, the experience. So Sashi and Yang joined in later. Sashi was my guide, and I was exploring. And she asked me, and I said it was a phone to take better pictures. And then when she asked me to think about the needs, I said what we came up with was my need for beauty, for clarity, for connection, and for creativity. And then she said, how do you feel? And I think the first thing that came to me is I feel less guilty and less indulgent now about just wanting a phone. Because it's so nice that I have these 4 very defined needs, and which make total sense because I'm an artist. So that felt beautiful. And then the part of what is that one step that you can take, I said I will start to keep a little money aside for the phone. And it was Sashi sort of probed me saying, it sounds very vague. What are you going to do? So I said, okay, I teach folk and tribal art online, many different sessions. So I said, I will keep money away from my Thursday sessions for the phone. So that felt so liberating. Wow. Because you just end up spending money everywhere, right? Yeah. But to know that I will keep money away from an X class, which is only for my phone, felt fantastic.
Wow, wonderful.
And then we did a small little thing where I was the guide, but both Sashi and me both were guides for Yang. And he said he wanted a new microphone, and he had a good one. But he said that I feel like the new microphone will make my voice sound better. I will be able to speak well. I'm forgetting the words. But I just want to come to the need that we sort of zoomed in onto his need for validation. Yeah. And respect. Yeah. And self-worth and self-esteem. Nice. So yeah, it was sort of, for me, I think I just felt like it was this very aha moment listening to Yang's experience as well as my own. And then Sashi helping us facilitate the whole thing.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. And I'm not sure I'll get to hear from everybody else, but let's go to, oh, somebody disappeared. Let's go to Ahmad in Egypt next. Ahmad?
Yes, we were 3, Juliana, me, and Beth. And I would like to speak about Beth. And she was aiming to speak to you, Beth, to speak to you, Jem. She can't read, and because there's something, and she was looking for a copy, audible copy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To hear it, not to read it.
Right, makes a lot of sense.
Yes, and I'm transferring her message to you for this. She didn't take a long time to speak, but this is her message. And I was in the role of explorer, and I was dreaming of having a box holding my book, some books I wrote about NPC for kids, stories for kids, and I hope that this box will be in hands of the governmental schools children. This is what I was looking for, and I discovered that it's a very small step between me and the dream, and I was so grateful for myself, so grateful for what I lived in the experience. It was something for me. It was with Juliana and Beth.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing both pieces of your experience. I'm really touched by you being the deliverer of the message from Beth. And that's definitely something that I think we need to do more work on, is accessibility. And so I appreciate that reminder. And I'm also grateful for what you shared about how you discovered that you're closer to your dream than maybe you realized. And so I want to just share my screen with you again, and I may or may not have time. I see your hand is still up, Yen, and let's just see if I can get everything done here. So some people are asking in the chat, why did we choose a tangible object? And it was really to save time. That was the main reason. You can do this with any kind of an object or a dream. In fact, most of our social change ideas are not solid, but rather much more at the conceptual level or the dream level or the vision level, something like that. But so the reason that I chose an object that you could put into a box is just because I thought it would be quicker in order to experience the difference. And the difference that I was aiming for you to experience was the difference between what Marshall called translative and transformative spirituality. So an example of translative spirituality would be you teach people to empathize with each other within a domination system, and everybody ends up feeling okay about being there. You're basically soothed into some sense of acceptance through getting a constant stream of empathy, but nothing necessarily ever changes. So we translate the pain and the suffering in the world into feelings and needs, and we feel better about it. But it doesn't really motivate social change. The second part of the exercise, when we added what I think is Marshall's, the genius piece of nonviolent communication, was adding the request. What's the next step in moving towards making life wonderful? So as I understood it from Marshall, the purpose of nonviolent communication is to create a quality of connection that inspires compassionate giving and receiving. So that quality of connection comes from empathy and honesty, but it's getting in touch with the request that actually creates the compassionate giving and receiving. So I'm hopeful that you all had that experience, and that your takeaway for the call would be, oh, okay, if I want to do powerful social change work, first I get in contact with my dream, and I hold those dreams as precious at the level of my needs. But I don't stop there. I actually take the next step. And I invite you to think about what you noticed between the difference between the first part of the exercise that ended with empathy and the second part of the exercise that ended with action. So I'll give you that to you as homework to think about later. And just to end with this quote from Marshall. Before we tackle the gangs and the basic story, a couple of concepts we covered earlier in the session, we have to make sure we have to have liberated ourselves from what we have been educated in, and make sure that we're coming from a spirituality of our own choosing. So again, here's that whole concept of choice, and actually moving towards what the world that we want to live in, the world that we would choose to live in. So take a deep breath here. And let me just say my little commercial again, and then if there's a minute or two left, I'll answer your question or take your thing, because I wanted to let you guys know that these calls are actually in the service of supporting the Center for Nonviolent Communication. I mentioned at the beginning of the call, but a lot of people have joined us since then. So I'm going to put into the link to buy my new book. And the new book is called Pathways to Liberation. I'm sorry, Pathways to Nonviolent Communication. And the idea of the book is to play with these 28 NVC skills. And every penny that we earn from the book is going to go to support the Center for Nonviolent Communication. And if you, oops, that was the wrong link. Here's the link to actually buy the book. And if you also would prefer to, maybe you got enough books in your house, you don't want to get a book and you want to just donate to CNBC directly, here's a donation link. And if you're a United States taxpayer, it might be a tax deductible donation for you. And so consider that, talk to your own accountant if that's important to you. The last link that I want to put into the chat is a feedback form. And so at some point, if you feel led to give me some feedback about this presentation, I'd appreciate it. I can't believe the hour has gone by already. Got about 4 minutes. And Yen, would you still have something you'd like to say?
I just had a quick question. So Poova and I really resonated over our need for external validation from whatever object we had, as opposed to being able to generate the self-esteem from within. And the question is whether it's okay that we have this need for external validation. Like I know where the chocolate is and I go get it, or should it's just a tough word, I know, but should we be working towards being able to generate the self-worth from within?
That's a great question. Probably could do a whole hour or two on that question. So I don't think I want to do it. I would do it any justice with a brief answer. But I will say this, that for me, it's important to make a distinction between a strategy and a need. And so getting a phone is not a need. Nobody needs a phone. For 100,000 generations, human beings didn't have phone, and we did fine without phone. So it's clear we don't need a phone. But if we get a phone, it might contribute. So a phone is a strategy to meet other needs. And we caught Purva's needs for beauty. I think it was Purva, someone's needs. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name right now. Someone's needs for beauty and creativity and so forth. And so these are all intrinsic needs that getting a phone may or may not contribute to. We really don't know whether a particular strategy is going to contribute to the needs till we try it, but we're predicting that if we try a particular strategy, it's going to meet some needs. And then we find out. And if it doesn't, then we mourn. If it does, then we celebrate. So that's as much as I think I can say now, because we only have a couple minutes before Jory's session. And I want to just end with a big thank you. Jory, if you could put my email address or our email address, if you either one, into the chat. If you have direct feedback that you'd like to offer us and don't want to do that feedback form, or if you have questions or requests, like I saw some people wanted to get the copy of the questions. Thank you for putting them into the chat. But I'm going to make this little PowerPoint available on the website with the recordings when that actually happens, when we get all the recordings up. And you'll get an email that'll let you know about that. So with that, I'm going to say thank you so much for being here and